going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ranked by James, where today we're doing, I guess, a pretty ambitious video right here. This is a pretty ambitious ranking, especially for someone who hasn't really seen, all of the sequels in the world, who has. But this is my list of the top 10 greatest movie sequels just all time. Now, trust me, there are a lot of omissions that I had to make for this list, and I really did have to make it like more of a personal favorites top 10, because if I did the objective list, it would be way too difficult to come up with for something that's this big, like all the sequels ever. And yeah, here I am to do the top 10 greatest, in my opinion, of all time. Now, like I said, I haven't seen everything, and I would also like to give two shout-outs. One to Kill Bill Part II, which would have made the list, but it's not really a sequel at the end of the day. It's just like, it's the same movie, which is split. And also Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is my favorite Halloween sequel, but I never really considered that a sequel. It's kind of like its own standalone thing. But aside from those two, this is my official list of my top 10, I guess more top 10 favorite movie sequels of all time. So coming in at number 10 is Lethal Weapon 2. Now, the reason I wanted to put a Lethal Weapon movie on this list is because I think Lethal Weapon is probably the most, I guess, consistent, straight four movies that I've seen in a while, I guess. There are some really consistent franchises, but this is four movies, each of which builds off of one another and, improves the last one while also making good, a solid enough impact. Like, all four Lethal Weapon movies are great, but Part 2 is my favorite just because, it's got some of the most iconic moments in the series. First of all, I want to say that Martin Riggs is one of my favorite movie characters, point blank, period. Like, I love the original and this. He's amazing in it. But then you got so many classic scenes and moments, like, the hydrogen bomb while Murtaugh is on the toilet. And then, of course, diplomatic immunity. One of the most classic, 80s action villain, big main quotes. The big bad villains in this movie, I guess. And then you also get, the introduction of Leo Getz, played by Joe Pesci. There's just so much to this movie, and it adds so much to the Lethal Weapon franchise. I think it's a little more lighthearted than the original, which I think works in its favor, and I just ultimately really like this movie. At number 9 is The Exorcist 3. Now, this is a movie that I've talked about, a good amount of times recently on my channel, and well, for good reason, because this movie is just so amazing on how it builds off of The Exorcist without really having that many elements of The Exorcist. Like, this could be a standalone movie, but, they have these elements that tie it back to the original in a way that doesn't get in the way of the new story that it's trying to tell with Brad Dourif and George C. Scott. And speaking of those two, oh my god, I've said it the last couple times, this is probably Brad Dourif's best performance in his entire career. And this is a guy who's known for delivering, performances that are, unworthy of the movies that he's in. And he just does such a good job of just sucking you in to this character of the Gemini killer and the whole mystery of, whether it really is or isn't him, or is the Gemini killer dead, or is he psychic, or is he getting intel from one of the workers at, the asylum or whatever. So much is great about this movie, and it's one that is incredibly underrated, I think, in the horror genre. The people who know about it know how great it is, but I feel like more people should watch this. You don't have to watch The Exorcist 2, and my god, please don't, to watch The Exorcist 3. And I was blown away when I watched it. Coming in at number 8 is Aliens. Now, this is a sci-fi sequel to a horror movie. And my God, what a great idea that was. You know, the original Alien is such a great, you know, I guess grander scale haunted house movie, because it's, you know, not a haunted house, it's a haunted ship in space that's being terrorized by, you know, this crazy, you know, animalistic alien who has one of the greatest, you know, creature designs of any movie villain ever. And Aliens said, well, what if we had like 1,000,000 of those instead of one? And we kept Ripley around and gave her this, you know, kid to take care of, and literally made her into this, like, you know, caring mother figure, while also trying to get rid of all of these aliens and these crazy threats. And there's just so much good about this movie. You know, it's sci-fi elements, it's action elements, it's horror elements. This movie is just one of the best sequels ever. You know, it's one that a lot of people argue is better than the original. I'm up there. I'm not sure if it's better. You know, I'm kind of, you know, I could flip on any day on, you know, which one I prefer. They're both very close for me, but Aliens is one that just has to make the list. At number 7, speaking of movies that outdid the original, number 7 is going to be Top Gun Maverick. Now, the original Top Gun is, you know, a fun, you know, 80s action movie, you know, about, you know, it's Tom Cruise and all these, you know, fighter jets, and it's really more focused on, like, the fighter jet aspect, like, you know, look at these cool planes, you know what I mean? And it is cool. It's cool, but this said, what if we saw the cool planes, except more, and we use Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer in his final performance to craft this really, like, actually entertaining story that we can follow, and with these new characters, this new group that Maverick is training. And it's so awesome. It really is. It's just one of the most awesome movies I've seen. It's something that, you know, has to be seen in theaters. Like, they keep putting it, at least in the IMAX theaters around me, like, they keep putting it back in the theater, because it's just a movie that once you experience it in the theater, it'll blow you away. Like, there's just more action, there's more story, there's more fun to be had. You know, the classic theme song, you know, Danger Zone, comes back from the original. Everything that's done in this movie is just, you know, they take the original and they elevate it to something that I don't even think anybody ever thought that it could be. This is a perfect sequel. At number 6, now I was gonna put The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly on this list, but, you know, I looked at it and was kind of considering it, but it turns out that that's a prequel. So if I ever do a prequel list, then that's going to be number 1. Sorry for spoiling it. But I am still going to put For a Few Dollars More on this, because I actually think that For a Few Dollars More is a lot better than Sergio Leone's first movie with Clint Eastwood, you know, Fistful of Dollars. I think that one's like okay, but For a Few Dollars More really steps it up, because, you know, this one, it follows Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef, who's usually the villain. It's interesting kind of seeing him in this kind of role, but Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef basically team up to take out this one outlaw who's got basically like this whole gang with him. So it's kind of a tense alliance, a tense friendship. They're just these two, you know, gunmen who know, like, they're very skilled and, you know, great at it, but they can't take on this guy alone. But together they team up, and, you know, they have some really, like, tense moments throughout the movie, tense scenes. There's like a whole bank robbery, and, you know, there's a big ending finale as always. And I just think that Sergio Leone's Western movies are always awesome, especially the ones with Clint Eastwood in them. And whenever I have a chance to do it, I'm gonna put them on these lists, because these old, you know, 60s Westerns, especially the Sergio Leone ones, especially the Clint Eastwood ones, and especially the Lee Van Cleef ones, are some of my favorite movies of all time. And this one is absolutely one of those. At number 5 is The Dark Knight. Now, it's The Dark Knight. Do I need to elaborate? It's, it's the one with the Joker, played by Heath Ledger, who's the best Joker. And, Batman rules. We had Batman Begins, which, set it up, basically. Like, the whole thing was like, it was almost basically like a prequel to this movie, so that this movie could just start and we already had the ball rolling. Like, who's Batman, the story, and not only do you have the Joker, but you also have Two-Face, Harvey Dent, who I think is a really kind of underrated villain because he just happens to be in the same movie as Heath Ledger's Joker. Like, he is really good, but it's just, yeah, you can't beat the Joker. That's one of the best villains literally ever, and he's only in this movie. And this is just such an iconic, unique, classic. It's probably the best superhero movie ever made. That's a very debatable fact, especially now that there's a billion of them. But this is definitely at least like a standard bearer for like amazing superhero films. Coming in at number 4 is Rocky IV. Now, I think all of the Rocky sequels have their fans, and they all kind of have their detractors. But the one that I think is unanimously agreed, like, this is awesome, is Rocky IV. Sylvester Stallone takes on the Cold War by himself and wins. I mean, Ivan Drago is one of, again, just like the Joker, one of the most iconic movie villains ever. Just this giant, roided up, psycho, like, inhuman boxer from the middle of Russia, and he's taken on just this little Rocky. But through his unique, like, training and like all the, the classic Rocky montages we get, it makes it legitimately, compelling and believable that Rocky could win this fight. And along the way, you've got one of the best movie soundtracks ever, easily. And there's just so much to love about this movie. I guess, like, especially, like, if you're American, like, this is one of the most American movies ever made. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, Drago, this Soviet killer, literally kills Apollo Creed in the beginning, who comes out in, like, the most American entrance ever. And so Sylvester Stallone has to fly to the Soviet Union, train himself in all these different and unique ways, and come back and get revenge. It's awesome. At number 3, now this one's just for me, because this is one of my favorite horror films of all time, and it's Dr. Sleep. This is my favorite horror movie sequel of all time. Does it surpass The Shining? No. The Shining is my favorite movie ever, but I think the thing that, elevates this so high is the fact that, like I've said before on the channel, it did the impossible. It was a legitimately gripping, compelling story that made sense, used the Shining lore and built off of it, while also adapting a book written by Stephen King to be a sequel to a movie that wasn't liked by Stephen King. And they made it so good, like, with the perfect amount of build-up and story and character, progression, everything, making sense. Some brutal scenes in here with, like, the baseball boy scene is iconic. Rose is one of, I think, the most underrated horror movie villains ever. She is phenomenal. Rebecca Ferguson does a fantastic job in this movie. And then builds up to the end, where the ending, the last like 20 minutes, 10 minutes or whatever, is where you get all the fan service, and it feels so earned. Like, fan service is fun, but when it feels earned, it's just that much better. And I think that this movie does a phenomenal job with everything that it was trying to go for. Coming in at number 2 is, like, objectively probably the number 1, but it's The Godfather Part II. I mean, again, like, right, it's basically, it's sort of like a prequel sequel almost. Like, you have Robert De Niro, who plays the original, you know, the Godfather, Vito Corleone, and it's basically the story of like him and his early life of, you know, his immigration and how he gets involved in, you know, the whole life of crime to begin with. And it also contrasts that with his son, the new, I guess, Godfather, Al Pacino, who is one of my favorite actors ever. You know, Robert De Niro is awesome. I know they're both compared a lot. In my personal opinion, I prefer Al Pacino. And so him playing, firstly, Al Pacino playing Robert De Niro's son has always been funny to me, but Pacino does such a great job carrying on his role as Michael Corleone from the first film, and, you know, how it, you know, shows him dealing, I guess, with his own set of, you know, problems and issues and differences in how he runs the whole, you know, operation than his father did. And it just does everything so well. You know, so many people say that they prefer this movie to the original, and it's not hard to see why, because this is amazing. I might prefer it. I'm not sure. That's again another one where, you know, it would probably vary on different days. It's just one of the greatest, you know, mob crime films ever, and it will never not be. But coming in at number 1 for me and for most people, I think, is pretty much a given. Sorry, this is a very, I guess is a very basic pick, but it's the Terminator 2 Judgment Day. This, oh my god, this movie is so much fun. This movie is amazing. I mean, like, when it comes to 80s action, this is probably the best. This is like the bar, this is the standard bearer for, you know, classic 80s action movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, as the T-800, facing off this time, you know, this time he's a good guy, and he has to protect this kid and Sarah Connor against a bigger Terminator, the T-1000. So it's Terminator versus Terminator, and, you know, all the while you got, you know, these other characters, you know, kind of getting in the way, but also, like, you know, they have to be protected, and you're rooting for all of them, and they have, you know, my favorite Guns N' Roses song, You Could Be Mine, playing all over the soundtrack. It's amazing. This movie is an absolute action-packed, balls-to-the-wall, total blast. You know, it's definitely better than the original in my mind. I guess I can see people preferring the original. They're both very different. The original, it's kind of like Alien and Aliens. The original, a lot of people, you know, call it like a horror movie or thriller, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. It's definitely a different vibe from Part 2, but I personally prefer Part 2 better. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite action movies ever, you know, easily like top 5. It's amazing, and it has to be number 1. So thank you guys for watching my list of the top 10 greatest movie sequels ever. Again, I haven't seen them all. Maybe one day I'll redo this list with, you know, different picks, because I've seen more. But let me know what you thought about my list in the comments down below. I know it was a little generic, like there was a little, you know, there wasn't too much surprise, but let me know your list as well down below. And yeah, stick around for what's coming next. I think I might do another sequels video. It might be the top 10 horror sequels that I do next, and, you know, whatever else. So if you like this video, you can go down there. It's right down there. You can subscribe, you can hit the like, you can comment whatever you want. And I guess, yeah, until next time, peace out.